Tommy burst through the cabin door. Snow in his hair, terror in his eyes. "Mama, there's a dead man by the creek." Behind him, 6-year-old Lillian stood frozen. Mittens pressed to her mouth. Clara Brennan's hands stilled over the breadboard. Not again. Not like Jacob. She grabbed her shawl and followed them into the blizzard's aftermath. The wind cut like a blade. Snow drifts reached her waist, turning the Montana Territory into a frozen tomb. At the creek, a man lay face down in the snow. Blood had frozen on his temple, dark as rust. His coat was fine wool, torn at the shoulder wolf marks. His horse was gone. Boot tracks suggested ambush, then a stumbling crawl before collapse. Clara's first instinct screamed danger. Strangers brought trouble. Always had, always would. But Lillian knelt beside him, small hand touching his. "Mama, he's cold. Cold like Papa was." The words were a knife to Clara's chest. 2 winters ago. She'd found Jacob frozen by the fence line. Too late. Always too late. "Help me," she whispered. Tommy grabbed one arm, Clara the other. The man was dead weight, massive. They dragged him through the snow, his boots carving twin trails. Inside the cabin, they wrestled him onto Clara's narrow bed. His eyelids fluttered. He gasped a single word, "Elizabeth." Then nothing. Clara bolted the door. Outside, wolf howls rose like mourners at a funeral. She pressed her back against the wood, heart hammering. Tommy's voice was small. "Mama, what if he's a bad man?" Clara looked at the stranger, blood-soaked, helpless, human. "Then we'll face it together. But a man can't be bad if he's dead." She moved to the fire, hands shaking. "Lord, don't let me regret this." The stranger's eyes snapped open, vivid blue, wide with terror. He grabbed Clara's wrist, gripped like iron, despite his weakness. "They tried to kill me," he rasped. Don't let them know I'm here." Then he collapsed again, hand falling away. Clara stared at her children. What had she brought into their home? Grant McCoy thrashed in her bed, fever hot, calling for someone named Elizabeth. Clara pressed a cool cloth to his forehead. Her last jar of honey dissolved in tea steaming beside her. Tommy watched from the loft. Eyes wide as saucers. 3 days, 3 nights. The fever wouldn't break. Grant's delirium was a window into his soul. "I should have been there. Our baby girl. Forgive me, Elizabeth." His voice cracked on the name. Clara understood grief. It was a language she spoke fluently. She worked through exhaustion, changing cloths, spooning broth when he could swallow. Her supplies dwindled. If he didn't recover soon, they'd all starve. On the 4th morning, a knock shattered the silence. Mrs. Warren Kent stood on the threshold. Charity bread in hand and judgment in her eyes. She was the town's self-appointed conscience, sharp-tonged and sharper-eyed. "Clara Brennan, I heard you've taken in." She stopped mid-sentence, staring past Clara to the bed where Grant lay. "A man under your roof. With children." Clara's exhaustion boiled into fury. He was dying. What was I supposed to do? Mrs. Kent's lips thinned. "Let the Lord sort it, child. Not invite scandal to your door. The Lord helps those who help themselves." Clara shot back. "And sometimes those who help others." Mrs. Kent's gaze was ice. "People will talk, Clara. Then let them talk. I can't hear gossip over the wind." But as the older woman left, Clara knew the damage was done. By sunset, the whole town would know the poor widow was harboring a strange man. Her reputation, already fragile, had just shattered. That night, Grant's fever finally broke. But in his sleep, he murmured something that made Clara's blood run cold. "The deed. Jed can't have it. The northern ridge is mine." She dismissed it as fever talk. But Tommy, crouched in the loft, memorized every word. Something was wrong. Something dangerous. And they were trapped in the middle of it. Grant McCoy woke to sunlight, weak, watery, but sunlight. The widow sat by the fire, mending his torn coat. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Every stitch a small defiance against the world's cruelty. He tried to sit up. Pain lanced through his skull. "Easy," Clara said without looking up. "You've been mostly dead for 6 days. 6. His voice was gravel. "Where am I?" "My cabin. Montana Territory. If you've forgotten." She set down the coat, met his eyes. "Who are you and who wants you dead?" Grant studied her. Late 20s, maybe 30. Beautiful in the way frontier women were hard-earned, carved by wind and loss. Her eyes held weariness and something else. Strength. "Grant McCoy," he said. "I own the largest ranch in 3 counties." Clara's face went pale. She'd saved a millionaire. He explained haltingly. He'd been writing to file a land deed for his Northern Ridge prime grazing land worth a fortune. 3 men ambushed him, beat him, left him to die. They wanted the deed. "And this Jed?" Clara asked. "Jed Murphy, my neighbor. He's been trying to buy that land for years. I always refused." Grant's jaw tightened. Guess he decided to take it. Clara was silent for a long moment. "Your people must be looking for you." "Maybe." Grant's gaze was steady. "Or maybe they think I'm dead. Easier that way for some." She heard the bitterness, recognized it. "You lost someone?" It wasn't a question. Grant's voice dropped to a whisper. "My wife Elizabeth. She died in childbirth. Our daughter followed 3 days later." He looked away. "I buried them both and buried myself in building an empire. Forgot what it meant to be human." Clara's throat tightened. "I lost my husband 2 winters back. Jacob froze to death repairing fences. I found him at dawn." Their eyes met. 2 strangers. 2 souls scraped raw by grief. "You're strong enough to leave now," Clara said carefully. "Your people, and if I don't want a Grant interrupted, the question hung between them like smoke. Clara thought of Mrs. Kent's judgment, the town's whispers, the danger swirling around this man. She should send him away. Protect herself. Instead, she heard herself say, "Then I reckon you stay till spring." Grant's expression shifted surprise, then something warmer. Relief. Maybe, or hope. Outside, the first robin called. Winter was cracking, but so was the wall around Clara's heart, and she was terrified of what might break through. "Why'd you save me?" Grant asked quietly. "You don't even know me." Clara picked up his coat, resumed stitching. "Because the world's got enough cold in it. Didn't need me adding more." Grant watched her work. For the first time in years, the ache in his chest wasn't grief. It was something else. Something he'd thought dead. Hope. Grant swung the axe clumsy at first. Then, finding rhythm. Clara watched from the doorway, arms crossed. He was mending her fence. Not as employer, as equal. 3 weeks had passed since he'd woken. His strength returned slowly, but his determination was fierce. He refused to sit idle while Clara worked herself to exhaustion. He repaired the cabin roof, stopping leaks she'd lived with for months. He chopped wood, splitting logs with methodical precision. He taught Tommy to whittle, carving small animals that made the boy's eyes shine. Lillian followed him everywhere, asking endless questions. He answered with surprising patience. Clara felt her guard slipping and hated herself for it. One evening, wolves circled the chicken coop. Clara grabbed the rifle, but Grant was faster. He dropped the alpha with a single shot through the eye. The pack scattered, howling into the darkness. Clara's hand shook. "Thank you." Grant reloaded calmly. "A man protects what's his?" He paused. "What matters?" The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Neither dared name. But the town's cruelty was escalating. The general store refused to sell Clara flour. "Can't have your kind in here," the owner muttered. The preacher's wife crossed the street rather than pass her. At school, children taunted Tommy until he came home with a black eye and split lip. "They called you a harlot," he said quietly, refusing to meet her eyes. Clara cried alone in the barn that night, muffling sobs in her apron. She'd done nothing wrong. Saved a man's life. And the world punished her for it. Grant found her there. Didn't speak. Just sat on the hay bale beside her, solid and steady. "People will bury you for being kind," he said finally. "The land don't care if you're rich or poor. It'll bury you just the same. But people, they'll bury you for not letting a stranger freeze. Don't let them." "Clara." She wiped her eyes, voice raw. "And where's my pack, Ben?" Grant's gaze was unwavering. "Maybe right here." That night, he carved a toy horse for Lillian, sanding it smooth by firelight. "Barely's enough." Lillian ran up, clutching wildflowers. "Mama, Mr. Grant, look what I planted where the old barn was. Daisies and Indian paintbrush scattered like stars." Grant knelt. "That's beautiful, sweetheart. They'll grow back every year," Lillian said solemnly. The end.